You're listening to the Common Descent Podcast. Hello, Will.
Hello, David.
Hello, Marissa.
Hi there.
And hello, listeners, and welcome to a special episode of the Common Descent Podcast. It's Croc Month.
Woo!
All throughout the month of June, we are celebrating all things crocodilians. And this is a special episode where we are talking about croc conservation with our special guest, croc specialist, Dr. Marisa Tellez. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited to talk Croc.
Agreed.
Will is very excited.
Yes.
Now, before we get into the details of the science and the animals and the conservation, if you would please introduce yourself for our listeners.
My name is Dr. Marisa Tellez, and I am the co-founder as well as the executive director of the Crocodile Research Coalition. We are a non-profit, a wildlife and scientific nonprofit based in southern Belize. And our focus is crocodiles, but we take a more holistic approach when it comes to conservation. So not only do we focus on crocodiles, we do just focus on anything else that is in crocodilian habitat, because as we know, everything has a connection to each other. So we study manatee, jaguars, snakes, stingrays, you name it. If it's in crocodilian habitat, we want to know about it. But of course, our focus are the crocodiles.
That's so awesome. I didn't know all the rest of that. That's awesome.
It sounds like a really cool organization. And what a one. So you are actually coming to us right now from Belize.
Yes, I am in Belize right now. I'm in southern Belize, so the Placencia Peninsula. Also, we have the lovely Placencia Lagoon. So we are on the coast in southern Belize. So it's great because it does feel like a little bit of an island. And given the situation where we're at, we have both species of crocodilians here in Belize, just around the Placencia Lagoon. So it's great. I get to study both species as well as the hybrids.
Ooh, nice. So which species are those?
So our species that we have here in Belize, we have the American crocodile. And this crocodile has one of the widest geographical ranges of crocodilians throughout the world. You can find it from the southern tip of Florida all the way down to South America, to Venezuela. You can find it in some of the islands along the Caribbean. And then you also have the American crocodile on the Pacific coast. So our species of American crocodile, or our population of American crocodile, we just received some genetic information. We might have a new subspecies here in Belize because it's so isolated. So it's actually really exciting for us right now. And then the other species of crocodile we have is the Morlet's crocodile. This is more of your freshwater species that you can find in southern Mexico, Guatemala, as well as Belize.
Whoa, and you mentioned that they hybridize?
Yes. So
I didn't know that.
The American or the Morlet's crocodile, given previous scientific publications, they have been hybridizing for at least 1,000 generations in this particular area. So one thing that is interesting is now with some other genetic information that we are receiving from some of our studies, the majority of crocodiles here in Belize, they are hybrids.
Wow.
And so we have pure American crocodiles on the islands in Belize and in some isolated populations, like one or two populations in southern Belize. And then the Morlet's crocodile, we just have a few pure Morlet's crocodile populations along the western border with Guatemala. Also very isolated, but the rest of the population is, they're hybrids. So one question we have, especially with conservationists, as scientists, we got to keep the pure populations, but what if we are actually seeing the evolution of a new species? We do know that species have arisen through hybridization. So sure, right now it's just, okay, we've got the Morlets, we've got the American, oh my gosh, we're going to lose one of the species because of hybridization, but maybe this is just nature taking its course. And millions of years from now, you're going to have some scientists that are going to look back at this time and be like, oh, that's when the new species, Crocodilus belizeanii was in a sense evolving for the American and the Morlet's crocodile. So that's just an interesting take that we've been taking here at the CRC is, do we actually step in? Because again, it's possible we're just seeing evolution actually taking place right now.
I'm already geeking out because that immediately made me think of the situation with Cuban crocodiles and American crocodiles also hybridizing, but in that case they're threatening the Cuban crocodiles because they are overbreeding, they're over hybridizing and getting rid of that phenotype.
Okay, this is super exciting. This kind of goes into your world with paleontology, right?
All right.
So last year, I was in Dominican Republic conducting American crocodile studies, and there hadn't been any. They have been conducting studies, basic nest studies, basic eye shine studies of the American crocodile in Lago Enriquillo in Dominican Republic. But I went in with a master's student and we were conducting diet studies. We were trying to capture, to do morphology, look at parasites, yada, yada, yada. We're trying to expand the research, collaborating with the government and some other NGOs there. And I went to the museum and met up with the curator of herpetology, and he's been dabbling into paleontology. And they've been going into these caves and finding these fossils. They found an extinct species of gharial in a cave in Dominican Republic. And then they started to find fossils of Crocodilus rhombifer, also known as the Cuban crocodile. Wait a minute, this is interesting. So long story short, the herpetologist and I started talking about what if the American crocodile is in a sense the superior species, the superior competitor, and what if rhombifer was found throughout the Caribbean islands, but the American crocodile, being the superior competitor, in a sense, pushed rhombifer out, or possibly there was some type of hybridization. So for all we know, the American Crocs in Dominican Republic might have some genes of rhombifer, illustrating that there was a local population that went extinct possibly through hybridization. And then I spoke with some of my Cuban colleagues, and they had started to hypothesize as well that, again, the American crocodile, technically the American crocodile is considered one of the most timid and shy species, despite its size of sometimes getting to 18 feet. It is a relatively timid and shy species. And maybe timid and shy to humans, but maybe not so to other crocodiles. Again, we might be seeing with the Cuban crocodile, or Crocodilus rhombifer in Cuba, that you have the superior American crocodile that seems possibly more adaptive when it comes to climate change and urbanization. So in a sense, they are able to survive with all these climatic changes and anthropogenic disturbances where the Cuban crocodile might not be doing so well. And so again, the American crocodile is in a sense taking over, but then also with that, you also have the hybridization of the two species. So might not end up seeing the evolution of a new species, but in a sense, one species wiping out another species through hybridization.
And that those fossils might indicate that Cuba is not the first time this has happened between these two species.
Exactly. I believe it was a published paper that they found, I believe, a rhombifer skull in the Bahamas as well, not too long ago. So rhombifer, for all we know, we might find some fossils in what is now Haiti. I mean, that's still part of Hispaniola. But again, some of the other Caribbean isles. And so it's just kind of, again, illustrating that maybe one of the reasons that this particular crocodile species has such a wide range is that it's just a superior competitor and can be able to adapt to various different habitats.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. It's so interesting for me to think about just the idea of crocodilian conservation as a topic, because I think it's less intuitive for me than with a lot of other animals to think of crocodilians as animals that need protection.
Right.
They're so big, they're so powerful, they seem so unflappable that it's odd to think of them as animals that can be threatened and can struggle with the same sort of issues that a lot of other species do.
It's interesting because when there's been a lot of push in saving the crocodiles because of climate change, but one crocodilian specialist a couple years ago came out with a really interesting article talking about how throughout geological time, there have been times where Earth has definitely been hotter than what we're experiencing now, or what we may be experiencing in a couple years. Yet crocodilians, as well as sea turtles, they were able to adapt. So, utilizing the whole idea, especially for grant writing or whatever, like, oh my gosh, climate change may threaten, crocodilian survival or even sea turtle survival. That might not be true because they were able to survive again in these hotter climates during other periods in the past. So that might not be the biggest threat. And what I think is the biggest threat, which is technically is the biggest threat to a lot of different wildlife species, it's humans. And crocodilians, we almost wiped them out in the mid 1900s. And so throughout time with indigenous cultures, yes, they did utilize crocodiles as a source of protein, maybe a way to connect to the gods, but it was done in a way that it was sustainable.
Yes.
And let me kind of bring the example of beliefs in regards of we went from respect to almost causing the extinction. So up to the late 1800s, when you looked at every body of water here in Belize, and if you had a flashlight or a torch and you just shined across the lagoon or any source of water, it would be a sea of red eyes because there was just crocodiles everywhere. And we see this in old reports. There were so many crocodiles that there's actually an old report from 1890 from a British general that said that they used to just shoot the crocodiles just for fun, just for sport. You know, because killing a couple, I mean, there's just so many, you're not going to kill them all.
The numbers seemed untouchable.
Yeah, they just seemed untouchable. And, here comes World War I, World War II, where crocodilian skin was being utilized for boots, in a sense, for armor. And we know, even going back to the Roman era, that the military was utilizing crocodilian skin as some type of armor just because of how tough it is. And again, also for the osteoderms, the bony plates that are on the backs of crocodiles.
Which is very sad from protecting the animal standpoint, but also that's really awesome that your skin is so tough that the military is like, hey, could we use that?
Yeah, they're like, hey, this is good protection right here. So we have World War I, and you do see this hide and hunting of crocodilians throughout the world for their skin for the military. And then World War II comes, and then again you start seeing this increase of crocodilians being hunted for their skin for the military. But it wasn't in a number that was going to wipe out a species. And then World War II ends, the war to end all wars. And those businesses that were creating the suits for the military or utilizing crocodilian skin for the military, they're thinking, oh my gosh, we're out of business. The war to end all wars has ended our business. What are we going to do to continue getting money? Let's make crocodilian skin fashionable.
Yep.
And so now you have the end of the 1940s, early 1950s, and within a decade, humans almost wiped crocodilians off the face of this earth just for the fashion industry. With that, too, is that you had these hunters that were going into remote areas. You had these indigenous cultures that there was a respect for these animals. No, you can't hunt our crocodiles. That's our grandfather. There was an ancestral tie. But you had, through colonization, where there was this removal of indigenous people or rural people from their connection, not just to crocodiles, but also just to nature. But then also, you think that's your grandfather? Oh, actually, that's a monstrous animal that just wants to devour you. And just constantly inputting this into the mindset of the rural communities, they start thinking, oh, wait, maybe they're right. Maybe this animal wants to eat us. So when you start putting a negative perception on an animal, on a plant, or making it seem like no, it's not worth anything. That makes it easier to exploit the resource.
See, I'm really doing you a favor by getting this out of here.
Exactly. Let me do that favor for you. And we're going to keep that community safe. And so not only did you have this disconnect or lack of respect towards nature from people, outside of an area or foreigners, the colonists. Now you started to create that disconnect with the rural people that for generations, centuries did have this connection. And then, of course, modernization and stuff like that. Oh, no, we don't need nature. So this disconnect. So 50s through late 70s, at least here in Belize, wildlife was not to be respected. Wildlife was to be exploited. It was all about making money. But the people of Belize were not the ones getting the money. It was always going to an outside source. And so, again, you just had this big disconnect. Finally, in 1981, when Belize gained its independence, the people of Belize gained control of the wildlife and their natural resources. And that's when you started to see this increase within the crocodile population here in Belize. And it was about the 1970s, even worldwide. People started to protect crocodiles because they started to understand the cultural connection and also the ecological importance. There's a perfect example with Louisiana. As they started to hunt the alligators, and as the number of the alligators start to decrease, where's the deer? Where's the nutria? Where's even the fish population is not as big as anymore because they started to see the importance of the American alligator as this ecological landscaper, that the nest of the alligators, the tunnels of the alligators were being utilized by other animals. And since there was no more alligators to kind of change the vegetation or to add nutrients to a local pond, that had a negative domino effect on the other wildlife. So this particular example, other people started to see that around the world. And that's where people started to think, we got to protect the crocodiles. And so here in Belize, we started to see this increase of the crocodile population. And with that, we, of course, started to see negative interactions between humans and crocodiles because you have generations where they lost that education of learning of knowing the do's and don'ts of how to live alongside wildlife.
No longer croc-wise as the...
Exactly. No longer croc-wise. And you still see that around the world. And so that's something the Crocodile Research Coalition, yes, we do tons of research. But I think what's even more important is the education. It's trying to revive the education and the knowledge that was lost due to colonialism, due to the overhunting of the animals, due to modernization even, right? Because, nature, that's not cool.
Well, yeah, the nature is something that happens on documentaries or on vacation. Nature's not where I live.
Well, and this is, I think, a theme that comes up a lot with conservation, and this episode won't have come out yet when this episode comes out, but we have recorded it already. This is something that comes up in our snake conservation discussion as well, that one of the most important considerations when you're talking about the health of species and the endangerment of species isn't only how people directly treat those animals, but just how people think about those animals.
Yeah, just the perception.
And either not understanding them and thus not understanding how to live alongside them, or having those negative perceptions, like you said, which of course comes up. That comes up with snakes. It comes up with sharks. It comes up with... We talked about vultures in a recent episode. Yeah. When there is a common perception among people that this is an animal that is dangerous or monstrous or bad or unworthy of respect for whatever reason, just that mindset being out there can be such a powerful and damaging impact.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So every day the CRC has to fight against these particular perceptions. It always amazes me when people are like, oh my God, I don't like crocodiles. Oh, I hate crocodiles. Have you ever seen one in the wild? No. Have you seen one at a zoo? No. I'm like, how can you hate an animal that you have never had any interaction with? I never understood that. But again, it's
Yeah.
education because it's what you see on the movies, documentaries, you know, just how the popular news media makes the crocodiles look, you know, how they're perceived. Not just this constantly, it's always this negative perception about crocodiles that really starts impounding the subconscious. And so that's where with the CRC, I'm like, we have to completely counteract that. So if you actually go on our social media and see any of our posts with our captive animals, we have 2 crocodiles under our human care or permanent care right now. And then any of the crocodiles that we have rehabbed or any of our neighborhood crocodiles, none of them are called Bone Crusher or Jaws, because that's just feeding that negative subconscious that we have to be afraid of these animals and we can't coexist. Yes. So, you know, our 2 captive Crocs is Gilly and Eamon. And I was watching Game of Thrones when we received these animals.
Nice.
So like Eamon, he's blind. He's blind because someone got a machete and chopped at his head. And it was because of the misguided beliefs and false facts about crocodiles. And so Maester Eamon. And Gilly is named after he had a partner named Sam. And so Gilly and Sam.
Right.
Unfortunately, when we received Sam, she was very sick, and so she passed away this past December, so we just have Gilly now.
Oh.
But again, we have Eamon and Gilly, and then we have had Burrito, a little 3-foot croc that someone was feeding. We have Tortilla, that was another croc, and so it was named Tortilla because someone was feeding a tortilla. You know, all these names that are a little bit more fun and gentle, and then anytime we do videos, it's not like this hardcore, you know, again, like Jaws or heavy metal or like, oh my gosh, something's going to happen and it's scary. It's fun. It's, you know, it's very lighthearted and stuff because it's feeding into that subconscious like, oh, this animal's not that bad.
Yeah, it's just an animal.
Yeah, it's just an animal. And so we're doing as much as we can to counteract that. To even with our community, we have a couple of neighborhood Crocs. And when I first came here to Placencia, I remember, you're the Croc girl. There's a Croc in front of my house on the lagoon. I'm like, please remove it. Okay, what is it doing? It's swimming. Okay, is it swimming towards you? No, it's swimming away. Well, that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to swim away. That's good. Clap. You know, applaud that crocodile for being, you know, a crocodile here in Belize. Because again, our crocodiles are pretty timid and shy. But again, it was this perception, and so it was constant education. I don't believe just going into school once every few years or even once every year. All the schools around here, they see us probably 5 times a year, and that even includes some community events. And then we're constantly posting on social media. We're going to all the community events so that people see us and they see that we're part of the community and they're a little bit more open to talk to us. And they understand that, yes, we are about crocodile conservation, but we're also about our community.
Yeah.
So it's building those ties and the relationships with the community. Because at the end of the day, conservation is not just about wildlife, it is about people. If we want to ensure the long-term success of any conservation program, we need the support of the people. We need the involvement of the people. The people need to be educated. And so that's why we have all these various programs for the community to be involved with the research. I see CRC, we're just a catalyst. What is going to ensure long-term conservation and coexistence of our crocodiles? It's the community. It's the people. So building our community science program, we have a wildlife youth program, volunteers coming out with us all the time. You know, and again, just doing whatever we can to build relationship. So next Tuesday, we have a booth in front of the police station, and it's going to be Crocioke.
Everyone goes and does their best bellow.
Yeah. But, people can come by the booth and the policemen are super excited, and we're definitely going to have a little bit of a karaoke session. But, we always have these different ways of getting the community interested and wanting to talk to us about why it's important to coexist with crocodiles. And again, just how lucky we are to have these animals.
Yeah.
Our crocodile species here in Belize, they almost went extinct like many other populations internationally. But here in Belize, they've rebounded pretty well, especially the Morlet's crocodile. You don't see that in other Central American countries and even some of the Caribbean countries. And so we always stress to people, we should be proud, we should be proud of the communities, of the government to getting our populations back, because there's other places that they want crocodiles and they don't have them for various reasons. And also, one thing I've learned over the years is, people always talk about the importance of crocodiles, why they're so important for the environment, or maybe you can make money off of them. For some people, that just goes in one ear out the other. I don't care if they're important for the environment. I don't care if crocodile poop helps with the fish population and the health of the lagoon.
Yeah, I'm not a fish.
Yeah, I don't care about that. But one thing that people care about is their culture, So we have dug into old Maya texts. We have spoken with some of the Creole, the Garifuna communities here to try to dig up some of the old connections with crocodiles, as well as other wildlife and just nature in general. Because when we do our research and we talk about how the Maya didn't fear, they revered crocodiles. And part of that is there is one creation story where the world sat on the back of a crocodile. The crocodile was the guardian of the earth. And one day there was a sky monster that wanted to devour the earth. And the crocodile sacrificed himself in this big battle in the sky. And when the blood of the crocodile came to earth, people arose. So we, in a sense, are all part crocodile. Crocodiles are our ancestors. So killing a crocodile is like killing our ancestor. That's sacrilegious. Why would you want to do that? And some people don't know this, but again, this has been lost over time, through, again, colonization and modernization. And additionally, crocodilians, they connected the heavens, the earth, and the underworld. The only other animal that did that was jaguars. So that was another reason why the Maya felt that crocodiles were very important. They were connected to the gods. So how could you harass? How could you kill something that was so precious in the eyes of the gods? And so we bring out a lot of these cultural aspects of the Maya when we do our education. And again, from the other ethnicities that you find here in Belize, we present this during our education because when people hear this, they're like, oh, well, crocodiles are part of our culture of Belize. And people don't want to lose that. Imagine in the United States something happened and the bald eagle went extinct. Not only is that like a knife to the heart in regards of conservation, but Americans would feel, oh my gosh, I've just lost a piece of me. And so that's one of the ways that we present our education. If we lose crocodiles, if we lose jaguar, we lose the harpy, we lose the fer-de-lance, we lose the manatee, we lose the scarlet macaw. Not only do we just lose wildlife, but we also lose a part of who we are because these animals are part of our culture. And so that's been a big message for us in regards of our education program.
It's such an interesting concept. I think that so often when we talk about education in light of conservation, what we're aiming to do is to replace fear with understanding. And we're replacing, myths with facts. But this approach of also replacing fear with pride.
Yes.
And with that connection, it makes me think of, there was a project that I learned about. This is probably still going on, but many years ago in Los Angeles, where it was a group trying to protect mountain lions, whose habitats had been all broken up by the highways and the roads. And one way that they started getting people interested in it is they started naming
Yeah.
mountain lions per like section of the city or section of the region and go, yeah, this is your mountain lion. This is P23 or whatever the
Yeah.
designations were. And people would get really excited of like, yeah, this is our mountain. This is the mountain lion that lives in my area. This is my neighbor. And having that sort of, whether it's an ancestral cultural connection or a new one that you're developing right here, it's really helpful to get people personally invested and
Yes.
personally connected to
But it's like, I know they've named great whites in a similar way, and like some of them have Twitter pages that will
yeah, they
update with
do.
like, yeah, we just saw, Shelly off the coast of, so now here's the update for where
this
Shelly
shark is.
Yep. And yeah, it makes me think of how I've heard this from multiple dog trainers that you don't train the dog, you train the owner. You train the human. You have
Right.
to train them. When you do this, you're sending your dog the wrong signal, and you need to stop doing that.
Right.
If you want your dog to respond to you, you need to do it the same way every time. It's you that needs to be consistent. The dog will follow. So the human is the one that you have to get to build the habits. The dog's going to be a dog,
Right.
and that this is a similar thing. You need to educate and adjust the community that lives alongside the crocodiles, because the crocodile is just going to be a crocodile. But if the people living around it can adjust their views and their feelings and their habits, then everything else will follow.
Yeah, and saying that, it reminds me of an incident that happened a couple years ago. Actually, it was during COVID. There was an 8-foot American crocodile that was poached in our Placencia Lagoon. And what broke my heart, so I kind of know all the crocs in the lagoon, and there's a couple of the big guys, such as Charlie. He's about a 13, 14-foot American croc. He's probably 65 years old. The local fishermen know him, and they always say, like, we have a healthy respect. He stays over there. We do our thing. And, so there's a couple of them I will never capture them. I'm like, respect, I'm not capturing you. And this particular croc, I believe our next gen croc group named him Poncho. And Poncho, it took a couple of years where we'd go on the boat. I knew the area, and I'd just say, hi, how's it going? And finally he would let our boat get close. And I remember there were kids on this boat that had never seen a crocodile, despite them living on the Placencia Lagoon, and them saying their parents had never seen a crocodile. And this 8-foot male American crocodile let us get right next to him on the boat. I mean, the kids, their eyes, they were just, this is amazing. It was like seeing a dragon, it was just mind-blowing. They're just so excited. And the parents even were like, oh my gosh, the kids were telling me about seeing Poncho and da-da-da-da-da. Well, unfortunately, apparently someone put out some type of bait for one of our big fish in the area, a grouper, but unfortunately he grabbed on it. And one of the guys knew me, but he was pressured into killing this animal instead of calling me so that I could remove the hook that was stuck in Poncho's throat. So anyways, it was like 9 o'clock in the morning, and I get the police coming to my house. And I'm thinking, I didn't do anything,
Right.
Like it's a little creepy, And and so they said, there's been a crocodile killed. We need you to come to the crime scene. And I was like, oh my gosh. And, they take me over there, and I see the croc. The police were actually looking, oh my gosh, this is a crazy story. If I remember correctly, the police were looking for a possible dead body in an area.
Yeah.
And they came across these guys skinning the crocodile, and they arrested them. And that's when they went to go get me to just they needed an expert to actually say, yes, this is a crocodile, and, what species. And it was like, oh gosh, this is American crocodile. When I asked the guys, where did you get this animal? They told me, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Poncho. And literally 3 weeks ago is when we finally had that bond with the kids. And I was like, oh my God. So it starts spreading. Facebook's really big here. So the story of a large crocodile in the northern part of the peninsula was killed. Instead of seeing these comments, which ever so often you see, I want to eat its tail, I want to make a some boots out of it, and stuff like that. The community, oh my God, please don't tell me it's Charlie. Please don't tell me it's Jeff. I'm going to go out on my boat and make sure it's not Jeff. And you see all these comments of people concerned for their neighborhood Crocs.
Yeah.
People outraged that anyone that lived on our peninsula killed this 8-foot American crocodile. I mean, just the comments, I hope these guys go to jail. I hope, people were being negative against the poachers, not the crocodile. And I was shocked, because if this happened even a decade ago, it would just absolutely, there would have been no comments. It wouldn't have even made Facebook. Facebook was around then. But I had people messaging me, and one of the old-time conservationists in the area, they said, Marisa, I know you're sad, but you have to look at the positive out of this. If this was done even 4 or 5 years ago, those policemen would have asked, oh, give me some of the meat. They wouldn't have arrested them. They wouldn't have cared. All the comments that you're seeing, people wouldn't have commented, or again, they would have commented negatively towards the crocodile. See the difference that you have made. CRC needs to keep doing what you're doing. You're making a positive impact for the wildlife and the community. And I did. I of course, it hurt that we lost Poncho, but at the same time, I told the team, I'm like, you guys, it's working. I don't know what, you know what I mean? Whatever we're doing, it's working,
Right.
And so we have really tried to expand that throughout the country, and we are seeing a positive change. But I think part of it is, again, we've done so much to really get the community invested. And obviously that's going to be hard in other parts of the country where we don't live, but that's where you find wildlife champions. And one of the areas here in Belize that has been so difficult in trying to create a croc-wise community or to build people's interest in crocodiles is Belize City. And Belize City is on the coast, and it was created on wonderful crocodile habitat centuries ago. So there's just crocodiles everywhere. And it's been one of the cities or locations I have really wanted to hit hard. To me, I feel if I could create Belize City to be a croc-wise location, it's like dropping the mic.
Right.
I'm done. I'm piecing out while I'm on a high kind of thing. But it's been difficult for us because it's a 3.5-hour drive. But we finally found a local tour guide, a local fisherman who one day saved a little crocodile, and he contacted us because he didn't know how to release it. And then we just started talking with him. We took him out on one of our capture surveys. He's the Croc man of Belize City now. And he has been helping us. And so it's been really fantastic because I see now, I'm like, okay, we can do this. Like, if we can create Belize City to become a croc-wise location, we definitely can make Belize a croc-wise nation. And so that's been a big goal of the CRC. It's not going to happen by tomorrow. It's not going to happen by next week. But for me, my goal is right now anywhere from 20 to 30 years, Belize will be a croc-wise nation.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's really incredible. It's so striking to hear a story where a bunch of people killed an 8-foot crocodile needlessly, and people saw it and they thought the monsters in that equation were the people.
Yep.
What an incredible turnaround.
That's always been one of the fascinating things to me about the global relationship with crocodilians. And there are definitely areas where it is still the human crocodilian interactions are vastly negative. But to my knowledge, and correct me if you know if I'm wrong, every species of crocodilian is protected.
Correct.
I think. Yeah. So, and that's always stood out to me, where like sharks are still on a extremely uphill battle for being large predators with an incredibly negative public perception, and getting proper protection laws in place for sharks is still being fought for and still in its, infancy in many cases, where like certain species are still not getting the protection they need or not getting the amount of protection they need, while Crocs have achieved that across the globe, while they are still large, potentially dangerous predators. But there is this charisma to them, and that people respond to them in a way that sense of community pride and national pride. Australia is proud of the fact that they have saltwater crocodiles. Florida is extremely proud of their alligators. That has been a big part of it, which is, I don't know, it's always stood out to me about this group of animals among those who have had major conservation efforts centered on them. It's a very unique situation, and it's always hopeful when you can see it in practice and see it working.
Yeah, people like Crocs. They're so cool.
I'm actually giving a talk at the upcoming IUCN Species Survival Commission Crocodile Specialist Group meeting in July, the CSG. I'm giving a presentation about our education efforts here because people have seen what we've done. My colleagues have come down, various colleagues have come down, and they are quite shocked about the change of perception. In a sense, a short period of time. CRC, we've only been around for 6 years. I was working in Belize since 2008, but I did not establish the CRC until 2016. And so we are a fairly young organization, but we've done some amazing good and some amazing change. And that's not just because of me. I have an amazing team. And we have fantastic volunteers. We have great support from the other big NGOs. So it's just been a really good group, and the fire just kind of keeps going, and obviously it's like when one good thing happens, it's like, you guys get that momentum, keep going. What's the next challenge? Okay, let's go. We got this, And so, and I also just kind of feel with the Croc world, there is this amazing camaraderie amongst all of us scientists and conservationists. And there's just been so much help in creating programs. For example, in Argentina, they have a fantastic ranching program that has really assisted rural communities, and they have provided their expertise in various other parts of the world. People don't seem to be, well, this is my program, and, we want to be the golden child only. Everyone's so willing to share, and that's one thing I really do love about the crocodilian community.
That's fantastic. Now, obviously, we love talking about educational efforts, that we're on an educational podcast, of course, but I definitely want to make sure that during this conversation, we also get to talk about what it's like to work with the Crocs. So you and the CRC do a lot of educational programming. It sounds like, from what you were talking about, you do a lot of engaging with the community, looking into history, doing genetic work, but you also get to go out and study these Crocs. So what does it look like to be a conservationist when you are out in the field with crocodiles?
All of our work is at night, and that is when crocodiles are most active. They are nocturnal predators. Of course, you'll see them during the day here and there, but they are most active at night. So if you are scared of the dark, probably being a crocodilian biologist is not the best career choice for you, especially if you want to go out. For me, I never thought about it until about a month ago when these people came from England, and they were like talking about like, oh, we're gonna have to go hiking at night, or we have to look at the crocodiles at night. And I'm just like, yeah, what? Oh, you're scared? It's just, that's my job. Like, I'm not scared of the dark. So in regards of creating right now a conservation and management action plan for crocodilians, what that looks like is I guess some of our work is during the day. So we'll go out during the day and we will assess the habitat of the crocodiles. Does this habitat look good? Is there any threats to habitat, such as industry, such as pollution? And I can get into one of our research projects about pollution in a bit. And so we just kind of look at the future threats of this particular habitat. Then we will go out at night to do a nocturnal eye shine survey. So a nocturnal eye shine survey is we just look for the red eyes of the crocodiles. So the reflection of the red eye, it is known as the tapetum lucidum. And so we are just getting the reflection, and we're counting crocodiles. Is this a yearling? Is this a juvenile, subadult, or adult? And that is actually understanding the abundance of crocodiles in a particular area. That is the most important information for conservation and management action plans. If you don't have time to do habitat and capture and nest surveys, or you don't have the funds, then just concentrate on the nocturnal eye shine surveys to get the idea of how many crocodiles are in a particular area. And one thing we really do look at when we're looking at the difference in size categories is how many juveniles compare to, let's say, subadults and adults. And we're kind of looking at this curve, you can say, in regards of the larger juveniles and subadults. If you have a high population, or if your population is mainly of larger juveniles and subadults, that's a stable population. That's a good population in that particular area. So that's what we're kind of aiming for. And then if you don't really get that particular, stats per se, then we have to understand, okay, is this a population that is declining for some reason, or is this a population that's possibly still in recovery from past exploitation? So after the nocturnal eye shine survey is the fun part. This is where we conduct capture surveys.
This is the wrestling crocodiles part of the research, I assume.
Yes, this is the part where, you wrestle the crocodile. And so this part is, I love this part of the job because we go out pre-COVID, we were going out from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning. You're just out all night capturing crocodiles. And of course, all the information that we're gathering is to understand the health of the individual as well as the health of the population. So we take various morphometrics of the crocodile. I have had so many colleagues come, and all of them have made comments, Marisa, you guys take so much data. And we have the crocodile. Why wouldn't I want to take all this data?
Oh, yeah. Do it while you have it.
Yeah.
Capturing a croc's not easy.
It's like when the doctor's like, well, while I have you here.
Yes.
While I have you here, let me collect this data. And so, a lot of this data also assists with it goes parallel with our genetic information that we are currently gathering as well. And besides the morphometric data that we are collecting, we also collect blood for genetics as well as to look for pollutants or to analyze for pollutants later on. And we also take tissue samples for genetics and pollutant analysis. And then we also take a small piece of a toenail clipping for heavy metals. And in regards of the blood versus the tissue versus the nail clipping, heavy metals are absorbed at a different rate in various parts of the body. So, for example, you get a higher concentration of lead in toenail clippings, as well as, I believe, mercury as well. So it just kind of provides you the most accurate concentration of mercury and lead that this animal is exposed to in the environment. And so that's why we take various samples for our heavy metal analysis. And once we take the samples, once we weigh the animal, once we sex the animal, then we'll just go ahead and release the animal back where we caught it. Now, one thing that I want to stress is when people think of capturing these animals for research or just capturing crocodiles in general, majority of people think of what they've seen with Steve Irwin, Swamp Brothers, all that kind of stuff. That is for entertainment. And one thing that I learned over the years, and it was really brought upon me through a colleague of mine, Sean Heflick, when he started to observe some of the crocodiles in captivity, is Imagine someone kidnapping you, and then they go ahead and put a bag over your head, and they're roughing you around. They're talking really loud. You know, there's this big chuckle in the background. It's scary. You're thinking like, oh my gosh, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? But if it's, okay, you've been captured, but after that, it's kind of, don't worry. Don't worry. And it's quiet and everything's done gentle. You're thinking, okay, this isn't that bad. There's less stress. We have seen, in a sense, using this quote unquote Zen method, the crocodiles recover at a faster rate from capture. In the past, when I've just captured animals with, you know, other organizations or whatever, and you're loud and you're kind of just roughing them around or whatever, for the bigger crocodiles, they are building up so much lactic acid because of the stress. And there are times where, oh my God, it's been 20 minutes and that animal hasn't moved. Did we kill it? But it's just so stressed out and it is just trying to metabolize out that lactic acid. Now, with this other method, with my team, not only are we quiet, but the other thing is to make things quick and efficient right before we do the capture survey. I at least need 4 people to get the job done efficiently. So it's you're handling the crocodile, person A is handling the crocodile, person B is doing the measurements, person C is the one taking down all the notes, person D, you're getting everything ready for the weight, for the genetics, for the heavy metals. And so there's no lag time. It just goes boom, 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 boom. People are quick. It's not like, wait, what are you doing? Wait, what am I supposed to do? Da-da-da. It's nothing like that. It's just efficient. Yeah. And so now, I mean, we just release the animal, they swim.
Yeah.
They're gone. And so I have spoken with a couple of potential grad students in the past because I would like to do some type of study that illustrates the difference between, a sense, like the old way versus more of this Zen method. And again, it's about the welfare, right? In the past, old scientists, they didn't really care about the welfare of the animal, but we are more conscious about it now. So if we can improve the welfare of the animal, which means decreasing the stress, let's do it. And then the other thing is that I've seen in the past is that while people are roughing up or talking so loud, the animal's like constantly moving because it's scared. And so it might hit itself against something on the boat. It might hurt a person. Doing it our way, animals just don't move. They're just so relaxed. And so it's less stress for the animal. It's less stress for the team, which creates a better safety environment. So that's what we do for our captures. You know, it's not as exciting, but again, this is not about entertainment and looking cool on social media. It is about getting the research to assist in the conservation of the animal while taking the welfare of the animal in mind. So that's pretty much the overall with the capture surveys. And then after capture survey, if we have time, if it's nesting season in the area, we will do nesting. We will do a nest survey, which tends to take during the day. Our species, they do not approach us like what you might see with Australia or the American alligators, where the mothers are super defensive.
Yeah.
Our animals, our species are pretty timid and shy, and they're just kind of like, you're going for my eggs. Well,
sorry, kids.
It's a real shame.
Yeah. Okay. I'll make some more next year. It's fine. You know, so nest surveys are not too exciting for us.
Not as fraught as it's often made to seem.
Yeah.
It's so cool to think. Obviously, this is not the only part of the job, right? Being a scientist, studying animals, you're working in a lab, you're working with other people, you're writing papers, you're doing education. Like there's all sorts of stuff to it. But that there is a part of this job where it is a team of people going out at night to get a hold of these 6, 8, 10-foot long super predators and being efficient and being nice to the animals at the time. Right. This is such a cool, like, if there's an image of like awesome scientists, that's a really fantastic, like, I'd watch a movie about that.
Yes.
Like, I don't need it to be like, we're going out to hunt the monster. No, just like a bunch of cool scientists going out to take genetic samples in the middle of the night and seeing all the eyes. That's a really cool vision of science.
Absolutely.
And I do love that part of the job. Don't get me wrong. I guess I am an adrenaline junkie. I do love working with these animals that pose a danger. I can't, I know I keep talking about they're timid and shy and our species are not considered man-eaters, but of course there is the potential of danger. And I know that these animals would bite or attack out of defense like any animal would.
Mm-hmm. And they got more teeth than a lot of those other animals.
Exactly.
Yeah. It just takes one bite from a crocodile to teach you a real lesson.
Yes. And, our species, that actually reminds me of a story. So with our surveys, and I feel comfortable with our population here in Belize, we will go in the water and swim after them. I have caught crocodiles while mid-swimming or have the snare pole. And there poses a danger. And I obviously assess the area because, getting to 10 foot, do I really want to get in the water with it? I'm smart about stuff. It's mainly the smaller ones we go after. And the other, sorry, it's a crazy story. So we do go in the water with them. And there was a time where I thought, this is it. I'm done.
Yeah.
And it was on an island in Belize, and we know at that time people were feeding crocodiles in this particular area. And there was one particular male crocodile that was 11, 12 feet, and he had already nipped at people, and he had taken a couple of dogs, even with people around. He was just not scared of people whatsoever.
Oh, man.
And I had my master's student, Miriam, with me. And we were trying to capture crocodiles for her master's work at that time, where we would capture them, and anytime they vocalized, she was trying to record their vocalization because she was studying the vocalization or the acoustics of American crocodiles here in Belize. So we're on our boat. We get a shine near the mangrove, and it looks like it's probably about a 3-4 foot crocodile. So, and where the mangrove is, there's this little cove, and Miriam was like, let's go get it. You go from that side, I'll go from that side. I was like, perfect. So we jump out of the boat, and the boat can't go all the way into the cove because it gets really shallow. Mm-hmm. So, we just told our boat captain, Tony, just stay right there. We'll swim back to you in like 5 minutes. We'll let you guys know. And so we're going in the cove. We see the crocodile, but it escapes through this little back area. And I said, all right, Miriam, there's no way we're going to get this crocodile. It's gone. It's gone. So she's like, all right, let's just get back on the boat. I turn around, and maybe 20 feet in front of me are these red eyes because of my headlamp. I see red eyes, and they are inches apart. And it is just staring at us. And I said, Miriam, don't move. And she goes, why? I said, it's the big guy. It's the big guy, and he's staring right at us. And so she just slowly turns around. The old beep.
Yeah. Appropriate.
We're in waist deep water. This animal has the advantage, absolutely, if he wants to take us down. I am 5'4", 135 pounds. Miriam's, 5'7", probably at that point, 145, 150. And so we're a meal. We're a meal to this animal. And I just told her, I was like, stay still. It's like, if we move, this animal knows we are scared, and that's when he's going to approach. Do not move right now. If you're going to talk, do not be fearful. That animal will hear fear. Animals hear fear. Think about it. When you speak to a dog, when you speak to a horse, whatever domestic animals, they understand when you're mad. They understand when you're happy. They understand if you're going to do something to them. Crocodilians are smart. They have the intelligence of a 5 to 7-year-old. And so this animal, he will understand if we are afraid. And the other thing is, you don't want to start slapping the water, because that also means I'm scared prey, or I'm injured
Yep.
and I'm an easy meal. So you never want to slap the water when you see a crocodilian. And so with that, I yell, but in a very calm tone to my boat captain.
Very confident and a very self-assured yell.
Tony, the Croc is here. Pull the boat over. And I told Miriam, I just told her, start walking slowly. Do not face your back to this animal, because also when you face the back to a crocodilian or other predators, you are illustrating that you are submissive and you're afraid. So I told her, we have to continue to keep our front and look big. Look big right now. Like, I might be small, but I am a big predator. Like, I'm a big competitor as well. So we're just slowly walking. Again, our boat can't get into this cove because it's so shallow. So I just hear Tony and the other people on the boat just dragging the boat by just pulling on the mangrove. Even with that noise, that Croc didn't move. And so I just told Miriam, slowly but slowly, just go. That Croc starts turning his head towards us and starts slowly inching. And I'm thinking, you know what? I have the snare pole. If anything, if he opens up, I'll just jam it into his mouth. Like, I'm just thinking different scenarios. So the boat gets close enough. We get close enough to the boat, and Miriam is the closest to the boat. And so I told Tony, I said, look, this animal is creeping closer, and it's not moving. On 3, you, Miriam, jump, and you pull up Miriam. So, 1, 2, 3, they pulled her up. All that splashing, the animal's going towards me. And I said, Tony, he's all, yeah. I don't know how I did it. I think it was the only time that the Jedi within used the Force. And I somehow just jumped, and I just feel Tony just grab me and just pull me on the boat. And that animal just, even with that big splash, didn't go down right away, and then finally went away. And that was, Miriam and I just had this look, and we just need a few moments. Like, that was the closest I've ever felt. Oh my gosh, this is it. I'm gonna get killed by a crocodile right now. But the story about this was, one, when you're gonna work with an animal, you better know that animal's behavior. Mm-hmm. I knew we do not splash, we do not turn our back, we face that animal. Because if we did if we did the opposite of any of that, one of us probably would have been attacked. So yeah. I mean, that's something I always recommend to people. If you're whatever animal you're studying, understand that animal's behavior, especially if it's a predator. In case you get in a sticky situation, you have an idea of possibly what you can do to prevent a negative interaction. And so I was very thankful I understood animal behavior, but it also really pushed the fire in me, or it really created the fire in me to educate people about the do's and don'ts living alongside crocodiles. Because that behavior of the crocodile, that was not the bad behavior of a crocodile. That was the bad behavior of the humans that changed that crocodile's behavior by feeding it. I would not have been in that situation if people just did not feed that crocodile. And so that's when I really started stressing, do not feed the crocodiles, just because I had my life threatened. And, and so it was just, to me, it's been really important to really educate people about why we do not feed wildlife. Because sure, you might get a cute selfie. Mm-hmm. You might get a cool story to go tell friends after a vacation, but you just left a community in danger. And so that's why it's not even just about education with people living beside the crocodiles. It's also educating the people that come to visit the communities as well.
Yeah. Well, and it's that comes up in Florida all the time. And when I worked at the aquarium there, that would be a regular conversation as to why is it illegal to feed alligators? Because people will be like, what? Like, why would I get arrested for giving them food?
Right. I have food. It has a mouth.
Like, where is the crime? It was often tricky to explain that it's not that we're worried that you're going to do something wrong to the animal, but the lesson you're leaving behind for that animal is, when you're hungry, approach people. And that equation you just wrote has a number of bad endings to it. Like that is just a recipe for the likelihood that someone or someone's pet is going to have a negative interaction with that animal. Even if it's not being especially aggressive, it's just you've given it the confidence to go toward other humans. And that just increases the statistics of something bad happening.
Yeah. It's the same logic as when you're learning how to keep a pet.
Yep.
You know, if you have a pet snake, for example, it is the typical logic. You don't just dangle the food in there,
Yes.
because then the snake knows when a hand comes in, that's food time, and that's how you get bitten by your pet snake. And like we said, getting bitten by your corn snake is not going to be a big deal, but getting bitten by an alligator,
Yep.
like even if the alligator's only half trying, that's still that's a lot of bite.
Well, and the other thing that I always emphasize with that is that you're putting someone else in danger, but you're also signing the death warrant of that animal. If that animal kills a kid, that animal's dying.
Yes.
If that animal just bites, someone majorly, that animal's probably going to be put down for doing nothing wrong.
So that's interesting what you just said, and it just reminded me of a project that we're currently doing in Northern Belize, and it's because of what you just said. In the sense, someone was feeding a crocodile in New River, Belize, which is in Northern Belize, and there was a video of these kids walking, and this crocodile just comes and takes the kid's puppy, and that's not normal. And then we found out that animal was being fed. And then, of course, Forest Department calls us and says, can you please remove this animal from this area because it's habituated. And if you can't, like at this point, you can keep it as an educational animal or euthanize it.
Yeah.
So we go up there. Now here's the interesting twist, and we start going to some really interesting science. So in this area, let's do a little prequel. In this area, so that we caught this crocodile September 2018. And right before that, we started getting all these messages from people that live alongside the river. We are seeing white crocodiles. Our crocodiles are turning pinkish. We're seeing more lethargic crocodiles. And this is, people have lived alongside the crocodiles in this area for a long time. There's a lot of tourism around the crocodiles. So seeing these animals die, that is going to affect our economy. And then also with that is a lot of people started to see, along with these white crocodiles, fish dying. And sometimes the river smelled. And we were just thinking, I mean, we're not scientists in regards of thoroughly investigating an ecosystem. We're more just the wildlife biologists. And so we wanted to go up to New River to catch crocodiles there to see what was going on. And so then this attack happened on this puppy, and Forest Department asking us to go capture the animal. So I was like, all right, the timing's good. Let's try to do a capture survey when we capture this animal. So I had to watch a video over and over of a crocodile taking somebody's dog, which broke my heart because I love dogs, but I understood what was happening, just to identify scars on it, because I wanted to make sure that we caught the right animal. And I did notice it had these white blotches on it. And so later that night, when we got to New River, we did a drone survey and we found the crocodile. Then we went out on the boat and we captured that animal. When I captured this 7-foot Morlet's crocodile, when you catch a crocodile, they fight.
Yeah.
And Morlet's crocodiles, they are fighters. This animal went limp immediately. And I thought,
Weird.
did I just kill it? Did I break the neck? How do I break the neck of a crocodile with a little noose? What's going on? We bring it on land. It doesn't move. Forest Department comes. Is that animal dead? I don't think so. And we put a mirror on the nose just to see respiration and stuff. And it just was absolutely limp, but it had these white blotches. Parts of the skin were just sloughing off. What is going on? And in my head, I knew, I was like, there's some type of pollution in the water. You know, they're talking about a smell coming from the river. They're talking about dead fish. There's something in the water that's obviously affecting the crocodiles. So we take this animal back down south, and I'm going to rehab it back to health, and it's going to end up being one of our crocodile ambassadors at the CRC. After coming to us, it died in 2 weeks. When we did the necropsy, I can send you all photos in case you want to put it up anywhere. Its innards were all mush.
Whoa.
Hours after it died. It looked like it had been rotting in the sun for days. I showed pictures of what this crocodile looked like when we first opened it, and all the croc vets that I know internationally have said, I have never seen that. And it literally, like, all the muscles were mush. There was a black tar in the stomach. The intestinal lining was sloughing off. The kidneys were just falling apart in my hands. And the liver was definitely enlarged, and it almost looked chalky. I mean, this was just a pure sign of pollution affecting this animal. And this animal had been slowly dying over months. A few months later, we got another large crocodile from this area. Same thing. It died. I mean, just mush inside, kidneys falling through my hands. And again, they all have this white tint to their skin. So again, Game of Thrones, I started calling them White Walkers. They were alive, but really they were dead. Like, they were in this in-between. And so the name totally catched on. The news media used it, the White Walkers of belief.
Sure. Yep, that'll do it.
Forest Department. Oh, you know, what's going on with the White Walkers in New River? It's because it was just very eerie and creepy. And government right away saw the importance. Like, if this is happening to an animal that has one of the strongest immune systems in the world, how is this going to affect the rest of the wildlife that depends on the river? How is this going to affect communities? And it was right after the second crocodile, the pollution in the river got so bad, and the smell, it started to make people sick. And there was a couple times I had to wear a mask because the smell coming from the river was making me so sick. And so we have this project now, Save the New River, where it's a long-term monitoring project, but it looks like what is affecting the river, the cause of the White Walkers, the pollution. It does look like there's some type of effluent coming from a sugar factory. So whatever they are dumping into the river is causing some issues in the river health. But when you look further upstream, there's a lot of agriculture. So we know that there are some agrochemicals that are being utilized in Belize that have been banned in Belize, even in the United States, since the 70s, but somehow they're here and being utilized. At this moment, we're thinking it's this cocktail of agrochemicals and effluent from the sugar factory that is causing the pollution in New River that is obviously having this significant negative impact with not just the crocodiles, but various wildlife throughout the river system.
And you were led there because a croc grabbed a dog.
And this all happened. I mean, you know, it's an interesting story. We went there because, a croc grabbed a dog because someone had habituated the croc through direct feeding. And I'm sure we would have discovered the issue, but the issue came to light a lot quicker to us because someone habituated an animal.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that was a good thing, because it's not a good thing.
Right.
But if it wasn't for this one croc, I mean, it might have been another year or two before we figured what was going on with New River. And the thing is, when we published what we found in this crocodile, the communities around New River obviously were in an uproar of what is going on.
Yeah.
Asking government, asking the local farmers as well as the industry, this is not normal. What is going on? Do something about it. And so the timing, because of our research, I know that there was a little bit of regulations, and I know the sugar factory started to regulate a little bit on what was going on at the factory. So, it was a good thing that we responded to that particular croc attack on the dog, because if we didn't find out any later, who knows what could have happened.
Yeah.
Wow. Marisa, I get the impression that we could do an episode for 8 hours just having you tell us stories from your experience and your research.
Fantastic.
I do want to bring up one, and we can mention this briefly, because when I was learning about you, so Will and I wanted to have a Croc guest for Croc Month, and we've got a snake guest for July for Snake Month. And so I was doing some background, and I found the Crocodilian Research Coalition, and I learned about your research, and I read some about what you've done. And here is a piece of information I picked up that I have intentionally kept from Will until this moment on the recording. I learned that you also named a Croc after a Star Wars character.
Ah, yeah! TK421?
Awesome.
I saw that. It was in I think it was on Vice. It was an article about you, and it might have been Miriam. It was another person you worked with.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. And it mentioned that, and I went, great, I'm not going to tell Will about this.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So we put a satellite tracker. We put the first Iridium satellite tracker on an American croc, not only in Belize, but also in the region, to look at the dispersal patterns of crocodiles, because that information can also help with conservation efforts, right? So we were trying to name this animal, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and satellite tracking, that has been a project I've been wanting to do for years, but I just didn't have the funding, and I finally received funding because this particular crocodile was also the first crocodile to go through our rehabilitation program. So we use negative reinforcement and positive punishment to get habituated crocodiles to become wild crocodiles again.
Gotcha.
This was an 8-foot male that was in an area that had been fed. And so he graduated after 6 or 7 months. He did not show up when people were around anymore. He was timid. He was shy. And so, of course, we wanted to make sure that our program actually worked, because prior to that, if an animal was habituated, it was thrown in a facility or it was euthanized. We were trying to give crocodiles another chance, and this particular method had proven successful with tigers in India, polar bears in Canada. I believe they have also used it with mountain lions in Colorado, so with other predators as well.
Oh, wow.
So I wanted to try it with crocodilians, and I was approached by a colleague of mine, Flavio Morrissey, who is Flavio Morrissey is the croc whisperer. He absolutely understands their behavior. And so we worked on this program together, put a satellite tracker on this croc, and what are we going to name this croc? And again, I wanted to give it a Star Wars name, and I'm going through it all. And then Flavio, he goes, well, if you guys can't really think of a name, maybe just give him a number. And all of a sudden, oh my gosh, TK421, where are you? Right? Why aren't you at your post? Because satellite trackers, TK421, where are you? Right? We want to know where TK421 is. So we settled on TK421. We do have t-shirts on sale on our CRC website for TK421. Yeah.
Oh, I might be getting a t-shirt.
We might have to put a link in the episode description. It's so funny the number of times when I was I was learning about Marisa, about you as a potential guest, and the number of times that I saw something and went, oh, this is perfect for somebody to talk about Crocs with us and Will. The Star Wars thing, the hand towel thing, which I'm not even going to explain for our listeners. You'll just have to wonder about what that means. It's been great. Marisa, it has been utter delight talking to you about this and hearing about your conservation work. Is there anything you wanted to...
A million things.
Right.
But this has just been so... I'm sure I could talk your ear off just asking question after question, because I'm always fascinated to get to hear from people who work with Crocs, because as you said, they're intelligent and their behavior is very complex. So I've always loved these animals, but reading about them in books always felt like just the shallowest of introduction to how they actually behave. It was the big reason I wanted to get a job in an aquarium and interact with live animals and talk with people who cared for live animals and really get to know of, like, all right, we have these two gators. Tell me about them individually. Like, what are their personalities, and getting that perspective. So I eat that up. I eat those stories up and just love getting that information. It's always fascinating to me because I've not gotten much hands-on. I've held little ones.
So we got to take a trip down to Belize.
Yeah.
And meet all these cool Crocs from a safe distance.
Absolutely, yeah. Every Croc has its own individual personality, and you obviously see it with our captive animals, especially during their target training sessions. And, you know, some days they're really great, and other days they're like, I'm not going to work for my food. Just throw it at me, you know? Yeah, and then there's this little battle between us, and, you know, then they're mopey for a week or two because I wouldn't give them their food because they didn't work for it.
Sounds like having kids,
right? Yeah,
dealing with just a bunch of like you said, 5 to 7 year olds.
Exactly.
Yeah, they bite and they
right. Exactly. Yeah. Before we officially wrap up, Marisa, is there anything else you'd like to say on the note of Crocs, on the note of Croc conservation for our listeners? Any final message? Any wrap up ideas to get in people's minds?
I have so much to say. I don't know.
right. I guess one way to answer that question is if you go down to the episode description, we will have links to the CRC website. We can have links to your, if you're on social media, we can get a bunch of links from you. So if people want to learn more from you, that way you don't have to worry about saying all the things. Dig into it themselves.
I rarely am speechless, and that actually made me speechless. I'm like, I have so much more to say.
Right?
I know. Like I said, if we could do this for 8 hours, that'd be great. We would fill it easily.
Yeah, I feel, I definitely threw out some interesting conservation stories, a little bit about the research, but for those that want to find out more, they can definitely head to the CRC social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. We are on TikTok. I did say Instagram already. And then I have my own. I'm very active on Twitter and Instagram as well. And so those are other avenues in which you can get in contact with me. I'm more than happy to answer any type of crocodilian question that you may have. And especially for those that are aspiring young scientists, you need some advice. You need possible connections in the crocodilian world. Do not hesitate to contact me. I love mentoring and fostering the next generation of scientists. So please contact me if you have any questions about being in the world of conservation or science. And if you really want to sink your teeth into conservation, we have internship opportunities, virtual and on-site, as well as you can, if you're a graduate student and you want to do some crocodile work or even just work in herpafauna, please contact us. We do also assist graduate students with their particular research projects.
That's fantastic.
That's
awesome. So great.
Yes.
I have one last question before we officially wrap up. Marisa, do you have a favorite species of crocodilian?
I love the American crocodile. It's probably because I have been working with it for over a decade, and they're just so chill and peaceful. Mm-hmm. Like, they're so powerful. They are one of the larger species, but they're just just the Bob Marley music is always in the background, man. And I don't know what it is. And they'll surf the waves because, they do transverse in sea. So they're a chill species. But if I had to say another species, Cuban Crocs.
Yes.
Yeah.
They got those horns like a dragon. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
They jump pretty high too.
Yeah, they're so mobile.
Yeah, they're so mobile. I do love the Cuban Crocs, and they're very pretty. They're very pretty, and they just kind of have like a bad to the bone attitude, which I kind of like. So it's almost like, you know, the extremes. But I mean, the American Croc has my heart.
I appreciate you saying that they're chill, because that was a point I would because we'd get people at the aquarium who would move to Florida and would have that moment of like, hey, so how worried should we be now that we're sharing a state with giant reptiles? And I always loved explaining to them, like, all right, well, you know, here's the rundown on, you know, because they'd be like, yo, how do I tell a crocodile from an alligator? And I'd give them all the stuff, and I'd be like, you're in a cool situation where you're in the only place in the world where you have to worry about distinguishing that. Nowhere else do you have to worry about telling a croc from an alligator, because it only happens here. And B, the two species we have, two chill, lazy species. These are not species that want to eat people. These are not species that are regularly attacking people. You have to do something majorly wrong to get in trouble with an American alligator or American crocodile. So you came to the right place to get introduced to living alongside
Baby's first croc neighbors.
Yes.
This has been fantastic. Thank you so much, Marisa, for joining us for this episode. We hope our listeners have learned a ton. We hope that you have all sorts of fun new thoughts about Crocs. If you want to hear more, if you want to learn more, check those links in the description. Go pester Dr. Tellez on social media.
Please do.
And make sure you check out all of our other Croc Month stuff that we've been doing. We've got stuff on social media. We've got stuff on Discord. And then, of course, keep your ears out, because next month we will be doing an episode just like this for snakes. Oh, and also, actually, before we wrap up, I should mention, we chose June and July for Crocs and Snake Month because of World Croc Day and World Snake Day. And I guess this is one last thing for you. Marisa, you mentioned that you are involved in World Croc Day.
Yes, I was actually one of the founders of World Croc Day several years ago. So Belize was one of the Belize Zoo was one of the first places internationally to celebrate World Croc Day. And we will be celebrating it at the zoo again this coming year.
That's so cool.
That's so cool. And that's one of those great... I did not know that. I didn't know that when we reached out to you. You mentioned it when we first met you, and I was like, man, we've picked really the perfect person for our Crocs episode. Fantastic. Thank you one more time. Thank you so much. We hope everybody has a happy Croc month, and we'll see you for more stuff coming up soon. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Common Descent podcast. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and check our WordPress blog for pictures and links after each episode. Huge thanks to our patrons whose support helps keep this podcast running and who get access to bonus goodies on Patreon. The song you're hearing is called On the Origin of Species by Protodome, which we found at ocremix.org. Thanks again for listening. We hope you'll join us next time.